What's up, YouTube? I'm Mike, and today I'm back with, and I'm a psychopath, lest we forget, because again, that's what we're going to be talking about today, and probably for a little while on this channel, because again, it's a very niche topic, and I've gotten bored with bodybuilding. So, what we're going to be talking about today, and I think this is part 4. We are in fact in part 4, and part 4 I think is going to be called The Dust Settles. So in part 3, I explained in pretty grave detail what it's like when the mask of sanity falls, but particularly what it's like when a psychopath unmasks themselves, which I have gotten now better clarification on and is extremely rare. It is not common for a psychopath to voluntarily unmask themselves, and it can be a dangerous process. It has borderline been a very dangerous process in my life and in my marriage. I think just because it is incredibly jarring, and I don't want to beat that point to death because I want to try to this has been a very emotional, or I guess for me, depending on how you look at it, less than for other people. But that's another thing that I think actually warrants a bit of attention. Because I think what happens when you start talking about psychopathy is people immediately, they jump onto a lot of bandwagons and they lose track of the point. So I am a high factor 1 psychopath. Somebody asked in the comments what my diagnosis is. I don't have a diagnosis. High factor 1 psychopathy is not a diagnosable condition in the clinical sense, meaning there is no DSM-5. Factor 1 psychopathy is not in the DSM-5. What is in the DSM-5 is antisocial personality disorder. That is, and they'll even say with psychopathic traits. You can have from what I understand, you can have ASPD and not be a psychopath, but you can also get an ASPD diagnosis when you have a lot of factor 2 psychopathic traits. The very important part to understand, and what really seems to get under a lot of you guys' skin in the audience, which I can't tell you how much I love to read the comments, it gives me a lot of psychopathic supply, is that factor 1 psychopathy is not caused by the environment. Nobody abused me and made me this way. Drugs didn't make me this way. I was born this way. Cue the, what's her name? Nah, there's a song, Born This Way. I can't think of the artist. Yeah, I can't think of it. Anyway, I was born this way. Factor 2 psychopaths are not. It's not completely heritable. It has a lot to do with environment. It can be caused by early trauma. Factor 2 psychopaths are the ones that you read in the news that are doing all the violent behavior, and that's where the focus is. I am in a completely different group, but admittedly, and my therapist has said this, he has said, like, you could go to a different therapist and they could try to lump you in to into the ASPD group, one, because everybody wants to put a label on something, and for some reason it seems to make people in society feel more comfortable if they can believe there's something wrong with you, which really says a lot about our society. His estimation is that I just don't fit the criteria. I do have factor 2 traits. All high factor 1 people do have some factor 2 traits. But the fact that I've been able to maintain long relationships, both interpersonal relationships, work relationships, the warmth and attention that I'm able to show my children, there's a lot of things that a psychiatrist can look at and see that shows the distinct difference between factor 1 and factor 2. Factor 2 people cannot function in society for any length of time. These are the people with a lot of criminal rap sheets, tons of unemployment, like a lot of problems. If you watch my videos, yes, I have gone to prison. Yes, I've had negative things happen in my life. those don't automatically equate to factor two. And the other thing that I started this rant on, so let me bring back again to the point, is that I feel feelings like everybody else. I get hurt, I get sad, I cry, genuine tears. I experience the full range of human emotions. For me, the whole difference here, guys, that people continue to miss is that I'm perfectly capable of feeling sad, hurt, depressed, jealous, insecure. Most all of those feelings are muted compared to other people, even when they're about me. I just can't feel other people's feelings. That's the main difference. I can't feel your feelings. It doesn't mean that I can't care about other people. The caring is just comes from a different place. And that's why I'm talking today about the dust settling. Because ultimately, this is something that I have been living with my entire life and am going to be living differently with for the rest of my life, which means to some degree or another, no matter what my wife decides to do, we're trying hard here. We're going through a lot of shit. We may make it a little bit longer than she could quit. I could quit. Anybody could quit. Anything can happen, right? We don't know what's going to happen. But we're bound together for life because we have kids together. And my kids could have it. A high factor one psychopathy is very, very heritable. Both of my children show some subtle signs. I think maybe they got nicked, like maybe they didn't get the whole thing. That's up to be determined. So the key things that I want to talk about in these videos is what are some of the things that we're doing to cope? How are we learning to live again, for lack of a better term? And that really is probably the best term. What's happening in my house right now is that we're all learning to live again. The difference is now we're living in truth, finally, rather than living in lies or masks or filters, or there's all kinds of things, right? And so anytime you find out the harsh truth of a situation, like I would be willing to bet you like anytime, that's gonna be hard up front, because nobody, this is not just a psychopathy thing. It's like somebody else said, everybody in society, somebody in the comments said, everybody in society wears a mask. And that's true. Every one of you have a persona. The person that you are at work, the person that you are if you get called for jury duty, the person you are on a first job interview or even a first date, that person is not a good representation of who you really are. Okay, all your little skeletons in the closet, you don't bring those out on a first date. So the person, when you go on a first date or you're sitting down in a job interview, the person across from you is showing you their persona, which is the role they play in public life. That's what makes personal relationships so important, is because that's the only place that typically we get to let down out of our personas and be our true authentic selves, as people like to say. The problem is that people do this to greater and lesser degrees. And that's something that me and my wife are both having to struggle with. And it feels, I think, uniquely painful to each one of us. Because it's like the Tool song says, there's no fault, none to blame. It doesn't mean I don't desire to point the finger, blame the other, watch the temple topple over. That the temple's our marriage, and it's been toppling. Not because either one of us was right or wrong. That doesn't even exist in reality. There is no right or wrong. But because we're all to some degree self-referential, and we always naturally feel that our way of life is true, or our way of life is the right way. And when you really get truly honest with yourself, that's not true. So my wife has she has her reasons for the lies that she told me. Those reasons are justifications inside of her mind. And she can recognize now that she's not proud of those things. Those are not becoming of the person that she wants to be or the person she's trying to be today. And I can have had, the mask where I was putting forth feelings and emotions. I was displaying a certain character that when the chips are down, like Patrick Bateman said in American Psycho, I'm just not there. That person, that mask doesn't exist. It's a forgery. And so once you pull all of those layers down and you go, ooh, you're fucking really ugly underneath. And she looks at me and she's like, God damn, so are you. Then you got to go, okay, now what are we going to do about this? Because you've seen it. It's ugly. It's nasty. It's disgusting, and it's loathing and all the things. And so that's what we're trying to figure out. That's the next step. Is now that the dust has settled, we're seeing things clearly for what they are. How do you go about living the rest of your life? And this is the part where I've been saying for some time that the realization that finding out why I am the way I am has been so incredibly relieving. And there's times where it's actually relieving for her too. Because she can look at past behaviors where she might have thought I was doing something malicious and figure out like, oh my God, like that's just who he is. Take, for example, the thing that we've been struggling with the most lately, which is me. I have historically just been incapable of forgiving her for being human. Everything she does that hurts my feelings, makes me feel disrespected, unloved, whatever, all the negatives, right? Any little tiny mistake she makes in my world is just amplified to a massive degree. There's probably a bunch of people in my audience that are like, really? She told a little lie 10 years, and even if it wasn't a little lie, right? Like even if the lie she told 10 years ago was horrible, right? Like what if she had just got caught literally cheating? She was lying about where she was. I caught her in the act, okay? Just take it all the way to the extreme. I think most people would agree that you have to do something about that then, right? Like right then and there, you go to prison is what I do. I mean, if it's me, I'm not making this video because I'm sitting in Huntsville or whatever. But if you don't do that, if you choose to forgive, forget, work on your marriage, move on, whatever it is that you do, I think most people would agree that 10 years down the road, to just be sitting in your office and suddenly lose your shit over the memory of this thing that happened, while I don't know, seems reasonable to me, but it's like, what good is it doing you, right? I mean, what's the point of staying with somebody for 10 years if you're just going to burn the whole thing down a decade later because now suddenly you can't cope with some shit that you've known literally for 10 years. This case, it's nowhere near that bad. And I actually got like, I don't know if validation is word. I don't even know what I want. But basically, if you believe it or not, she got the couple who was involved in the lie I told you about. I told you that what happened was she was seeing a male client and lying to me about it when we first got married, which was something I had strictly forbidden. We actually talked to this couple on the phone last night. She reached out to this guy's wife, and we had like a literal conference call. And I spent most of the time talking to his wife because I felt like we had the most in common. Like, I think your husband cheated or was trying to cheat or had bad intentions. Either way, right? It doesn't matter. You don't have to physically do anything to be a cheater. If this guy was actively pursuing Sarah, if he had ill intentions, then not only was he committing an offense against me, but he was committing an offense against his wife. And so we had like a whole come to Jesus meeting. She explained all the reasons she felt like he wasn't doing that. Why she felt like I was seeing things through kind of colored glasses that had been colored by the fact that unfortunately my wife was lying to me. See, this wasn't news to her. He was telling her the truth about where he was going and what he was doing. I was the one that was getting lied to, and so she was good enough to say, I like, she sympathized, right? She validated me. She was like, if I was in your shoes, I totally understand why this has got you fucked up. It would have me fucked up too. If I found out that if I had been lied to about this, I would feel very differently. And she was kind enough to say, in a very gentle way, I think the fact that you got lied to is making you believe. I think it's making this situation look worse than it really is. And I understand why you would see it that way. But here's the reasons that I don't think it is what you think it is. And so while that gives some relief, it doesn't change the fact that my wife lied to me. And so that's the thing that ultimately, over the past to 36 hours maybe, I have been rapidly having to move around in my mind like I do. For me, solving problems takes a very short period of time. Something that somebody would spend 6 months in therapy, I might spend 6 hours on, because life's really not that fucking difficult. And so I'm having to do a lot of work inside my own head, trying to figure out what matters and what matters how and when and where. And that process is not complete. But what makes it infinitely easier to do is that when I study high factor 1 psychopathy and I learn that this is not me being crazy, the reaction that I'm having to my wife's lie is textbook high factor 1 psychopathy. High factor 1 psychopaths essentially, do not ever forgive you for the sins that you commit. And I even went so far today, because one of the things I was wanting from her was revenge. I wanted her to contact his wife and just tell her, I had an affair with your husband. Just tell her that. Whether you did or didn't, I don't care. These people hurt me. He hurt me. What you did hurt me. And I want revenge. I want my pound of flesh. So I don't care if you destroy their marriage. I want recompense for the pain that I have suffered for the last 10 years. And so one of the things that I started doing some research on last night is to find out, is that possible? Is that possible for a psychopath, for a high factor 1? What I learned is that, one, I will never truly forgive my wife. I will never ever be able to completely get over it. It's done. It's not undoable. It will forever change the way that I view her. It doesn't mean that we can't move on and have a healthy relationship, but it will always be a thorn in my flesh. It will always be a needle in the back of my mind. And what that means for the rest of my life is it will always be a factor in every calculation. So just imagine that every time you go to the gas station, for example, you're calculating how much your gas bill is going to cost you, but you have to add 5 cents to every gallon because you've got this debt that you just have to pay off, constantly. That's what it's like. For the rest of my life, every single solitary thing will have this tax attached to it, because I'm never just going to let it go. I'm not capable of doing that. Apparently it is possible, but it's extraordinarily rare that it ever just goes completely away. The secondary fact that I'm finding out is that the likelihood of me ever feeling like I have gotten revenge, justification, closure is almost also certainly nil. She could do just about anything, and while it might feel really good for a period of time, everything that has to do with affronts against my ego, my self-esteem, whatever you want to, all of the things, they're always happening now. The sins she committed technically occurred 10 years ago, but every time I relive it in my mind, which I have no power to stop, it just happens. It just comes careening into consciousness, or I dream about it. I don't have any control over that. Every time that it happens again, it happens now. It happens in the present. And so every apology she's ever made it's like you can't pre-apologize for something, right? That doesn't work. I can't say to her, look, hey, I just want you to know, I'm really, really sorry for all the times that I'm going to slap the fuck out of you in the future. It's absurd, right? It's totally absurd. And so because you can't pre-apologize, and because there's nothing she can do to undo the behavior, nor can I, you're basically on a hill here where this offense is going to rear up, and it's going to happen to me over and over and over again at time. And I can't even know when it's going to happen. So let's say she ran out and she did something really misaligned, and she told a lie, a convincing lie, and this woman divorced her husband and their entire family burned in flames, and I got to watch from the sidelines, and I just soaked up every bit of it. Like, that's right, you two get everything you deserve. That might feel really, really great in the moment. It would. I'm not gonna lie. It would feel fucking amazing. I'm not even gonna lie. I would absolutely, thoroughly enjoy every second of that, even though I now have had a conversation with these people and they seem perfectly lovely. Can't help it. Sorry, don't care about you. So, but the problem is that they could be, dead and gone and buried. When the memory of the thing reoccurs at some point in the future, it's happening again in real time, and I'm going to want recompense again and again and again and again and again because you can't pay it forward. I can't. It's not that I couldn't. I could go, okay, but wait, remember, like, those people don't even exist anymore. So, because what she did, so, like, that's enough. There's no guarantee my brain will view it that way because, like I said, the ledger just keeps constantly getting unbalanced. And the idea that she could commit an act that would be sufficiently savage as to raise the ledger to the positive so high that every time I re-experienced it, it took a little off the positive to keep it ever from going negative again. It's like maybe it could, but that's not a way to live life. Okay, that's not a way to live life. And when I started finding out that, one, I'm never going to forgive these things. Two, there's nothing that's ever likely going to make it feel justified. That's when you get to a situation where either you have to immediately end the marriage because there is no hope here, which is a very reasonable thing to do. I feel 100% justified in making that decision. But again, you have to weigh everything out. It's like, what are the statistical odds that I am going to, if I end the marriage and give up the things that do work and have been working for 10 years, what is the statistical probability that I'm going to get my needs met by somebody else who is never going to tell me a lie? Ever. They have to be perfect. They have to be impeccable. Because the other fact is, if I cash in an 11-year marriage, going on 11 years, if I flush an 11-year marriage down the toilet over a lie, and then I get into some new relationship, and 3 months down the road, she tells some little white lie, despite the fact that I told her that's the single greatest sin you could possibly ever commit. She does exactly the same thing my wife did. She just thought she could get away with it, or she was just dumb, or whatever. And now we're back to square one. I'm definitely not going to tolerate that. And so very quickly, you're going to get into a state, which I referenced in a previous video, where what happens is guys like me just end up alone. We just end up hermits. Because every relationship is just a complete non-starter. These people are human beings. They're going to be human at some point or another. They are going to make mistakes at some point or another. And if you can't find a coping mechanism, some way of balancing the ledger that is sufficiently powerful to you, then every relationship you even attempt is just it's gonna burn in flames. There's no point in even trying. And I'm not sure where I'm gonna land on that. There's a big part of me that wants to just go, fine. just leave the marriage and just go literally whoring. I never got that experience in life. I never did that. I was so deluded as a younger man that I used to believe that the sex was like a spiritual act of worship. I'm this crazy guy. I would never sleep with a girl inside of 2 weeks. Like, that was like the fastest. Like, I'm a weird guy. Like, I would make girls prove that they were worth the D game. I felt like I had something to offer. I'm just not handing it out to any old thought that comes along. I was never that way. And this has pulled a lot of wool off from my eyes, making me wonder, like, hey, might be kind of fun. Might be kind of fun to go into the club every night and hunt, do what predators do, chase down a new piece of tail every single night, have that little fun, put that notch in my belt, and go on to the next one. I've never gotten to live that life. This right now, currently, I've never been so attracted to the idea, And then, like, your daughter runs in the room and you melt, and it's like, fuck. See? Kids, man. You love them, and maybe they're the thing that will keep me on the straight and level. Because for high factor 1 psychopaths, that is generally the best case scenario. Right now, I am living in what is likely the best case scenario for me and for anybody who's unfortunately bound to me before they knew what they were getting into. The most successful high factor 1 psychopaths are ones who can create kind of what is called their legacy or their kingdom. When they become kingdom builders, they have a very small select group of people that sort of get a pass on all of the very, very harsh treatments that the rest of the world gets. So in my case, it would be my wife and my 2 kids. They are my kingdom. They are in my pride. They are basically extensions of myself. And that is what a factor 1 has to do in order, honestly, to be able to treat people in a healthy way. Because we are so me first, the best way to care for other people, for their loved ones, is to view them as extensions of ourselves. So it's easy when it comes to your kids, right? Like, I don't have to do any work to view my daughter as an extension of myself. She is a mini, she's like me in a female version, bouncing around my house, just like twinkle toes that just scatter joy and smiles everywhere she goes. I can't tell you the amount of fun that my daughter and I have, honestly manipulating each other. And that's the cool thing that we have. There she is. You can come in here, baby. There she is, my girl. Tell the camera, what is your official bedtime?
11.
11 o'clock. What time do you usually end up going to bed?
12.
12? Now, how do you manage to have an 11 o'clock bedtime and go to bed at 12?
Talking to you all night?
Because she talks to me. She comes in here at 11 o'clock, and every night she comes in and she does this. She gives me a big hug. She says, "Night-night, Daddy, I love you." I go, "Night-night." And then she stands and hovers right here.
And then I start asking questions.
And then she starts asking questions. And what is it that you're really doing when you're standing here asking me questions after bedtime?
Manipulating.
Manipulating. She's manipulating. She knows it. She knows that if she stands here and asks me the right questions, that she will engage me. And and that's the thing about calling a spade a spade. I know what she's doing. But we have a lot of fun together. During that period of time where I allow her a little extra time and we sing songs together, we study music lyrics, we talk about life, we talk about boys, we talk about robot boys, we talk about all kinds of things, right? Mm-hmm. And she gets to drive the conversation a lot. And so usually I'll be like, well, if you run out of things to talk about, I guess you have to go to bed.
No.
And she never runs out. And so that gives us a really great relationship because we just call a spade a spade. It's manipulation. That's what it is. It's manipulation. And it's okay. It's not an evil, negative thing. It creates a really special environment where we get to have some really cool daddy-daughter time. And it has made our relationship so great. She gets a lot of time with mommy during the day. She gets time with daddy in the evening. Because the other thing that she knows is that her bedtime, 11 o'clock at night, that's like my prime time hours. If she comes in here at 9, tries to start the same conversation, I'm like, yeah, I'm busy playing Valheim. See you in a little while. She comes in here at 11 and she can captivate my attention. And so that's what I got sidetracked. Why was I talking about you? Oh, my kingdom. So it's really easy for me to look at her and see an extension of It's really easy for me to look at her and see an extension of myself because she has so many of my traits. Same thing with my son. I can look at my son, I can see myself in him very, very easily. I can understand him. I learn from my son every day. That's one thing that a lot of parents don't do. They imagine they have nothing to learn from their kids. They imagine they have it all figured out. When my son says some shit to me, we had a conversation the other night. I was basically trying to tell him he's making a mistake. He's not viewing his relationship the way he should be viewing it. He stuck to his guns and he said, well, Dad, this is the way I feel about it. He walks away. I spent 20 minutes thinking about his point of view. I sent him a text message. I was like, damn, you might be right. Maybe I'm the one that's been misreading it all these years. So I never imagined that I have all of the right answers and that I don't have anything to learn from my kids because my kids came from me. They have my DNA. They have my genetics. They have a lot of my worldview. And so I view my kids as extensions of me in the sense that they're like little mini-me's and they're absorbing the world in real time. I'm an old man. I don't understand. Somebody in the comments said that my son mogged me. I'm like, he mogged me? What the hell does that mean? So I got to go to my kid and be like, hey, what the hell are you doing to me on camera? He explains it. We get a good laugh out of it. There's all kinds of things I learn from my son on a regular basis that if I wasn't willing to view him as an extension of myself, I would just be turning into this senile old man who was completely disconnected from reality. Who couldn't adapt with the times. My battery's going to die, so to decide if I want to wrap this up or run it until the end. See, you're seeing this drop cut because I see my batteries dying, then I start rushing, trying to not have to do 3 cuts, and then I miss the most important part that I was trying to make there at the end of the video. The whole point at the end of the video was what I have to do, what I'm working on diligently, is trying to maintain the idea that my family is all an extension of me. This is something my therapist has actually been helping me work with as it pertains to Sarah, and it has not been going good. So with Sarah, I'm trying to maintain the frame she is me, the she is me frame. The point of my earlier ramblings was it's easy to do with my children. I never need a reminder that my children are extensions of me because they quite literally are extensions of me. I look at my daughter and I just see myself in her all day, every day. I don't even have to try. I couldn't escape it if I wanted to. It requires no effort. I'll just be sitting at the dinner table and she'll suddenly be like, Daddy, why are you giving me that weird look? And it's because I'm just sitting there just starstruck with the fact that she said something so mundane, but it resonated so strongly with me that it's an uncanny experience because I never have it in life. And that's partly because she's brilliant like me. But my son does the same thing. It's just in his way, it's different. He says things and I hear myself coming out of him, but not in the trained in kind of way. And that's one of the things that I really despise, and I work very, very hard to make sure that I'm never grooming my children. I do not want groomed children. I do not want children who are just these little sycophants that run around just trying to make daddy happy, saying whatever's going to make daddy happy. I want free thinking, independent thinking children. And so I will intentionally challenge them sometimes when I hear them just if I feel like my daughter's just parroting something that I say, I'll ask her, why do you think that? To make sure it's not just because you do. That's not acceptable. You need to have your own independent reason for believing things. It's nice, it's lovely that they would want to be like me, but that's not my goal in life. I didn't set out to have children who are just like me. Of course, we're going to have similarities, but they have to be their own independent people Because I know what happens when you're not. I know how miserable life is when you try to be what other people want you to be. It does not ever lead to genuine happiness. And so I don't want my kids trying to live their lives to please me. I want my kids living their lives to please them. That is the objective. The reason I came back for a second or third take now is that is very hard to do when I'm applying it to my wife, because we don't have any shared DNA. She is not me in so many ways. And so that's one of the things that has been the biggest struggle, is how can I incorporate my wife into my kingdom building? How can I continue to see her as an extension of myself when she does things to me I would never do? Things that I do not value, things that I do not respect. How can I take these slights that I'm never going to forgive, never going to get over, and still find a way to treat her with care and respect, so that we can maintain our own family pride? And I say pride not as in proud, pride like as in a pride of lions. That's what I want to maintain, is a strong family unit that is bigger and better and greater than the sum of its parts, and can work together to resist the near constant onslaught that society prevents. Because we have a very, very unique family, and no professional, nobody in society is going to agree with our way of life. So we have put ourselves on. I'm clicking something in the background if you hear that. I've got this tiny little boot blade, and I fidget with it and click it. Sorry, it's probably really annoying. So that's the biggest challenge for me right now, is trying to figure out how to look past my wife's incredible failures and see someone who is still an extension of me and is valuable to my kingdom. And that ultimately, guys, is, for better or worse, that's what it is living with a psychopath. My wife doesn't get to just go, well, I love you, and that should be enough. He loves me, and that's enough. I don't. It's not enough. My worldview is totally based on, what have you done for me today? What do you have to offer me today that I can't get somewhere else? That becomes really important. She's got a small leg up because she is the mother of at least one of my children. I just view her as the mother of my children, because by the definition of mother, in the sense of mothering, she is the only person who has ever mothered my son. Let me get you a sip real quick before the end of the video. For you ASMR people in the audience, does any sip work, or is it if I do like a really gross sip, like if you're into ASMR, does that become like a grating annoyance? Is there like a line that makes it a good sip between a bad sip? Inquiring minds would like to know. So the challenge that I'm trying to overcome right now is, how do I look past my wife's obvious glaring faults and inconsistencies and various grotesqueries? How can I... I'm being dramatic intentionally. How can I look past all of this and manage to see something of value? How do you do that? It's tough. I'm gonna be honest. It's really hard. And I'm working really hard to do that. The point is that one of the things that I'm currently trying to do right now with this new information that I have is, before I just cash in all the chips and go play Club Kid at 46, get a little extra beard dye, try to figure out what the cool kids are wearing in the club, and go chase some strange that's about half my age. Before I do that, let me see if I can't find a way to protect the kingdom that I spent the last 11 years, 12 years, depending on where you want to start the clock building. Because there's a lot of value in what I've built. And so I have to try to find a way. This is what I'm always trying to do. Anytime I find out that I have a weakness, I try to turn it into a strength. Factor 1 psychopathy is about as close to a superpower as you can get. Right now, I am dealing with its weaknesses. And its weaknesses are forgiveness and the desire for revenge. And I'm going to spend every ounce of my energy trying to figure out a way to turn those Achilles heel kind of symptoms, those weaknesses, into strengths. And if my history is any gauge, I am very, very, very good at turning weaknesses into strengths. So over the days and weeks to come, I will continue making videos and update you on the progress of how I'm going to try to make high factor 1 psychopathy an absolute superpower with no apparent weaknesses. So that's what we'll see. We'll see in the days and weeks and months. Is it possible? I don't know. She doesn't know. Neither one of us knows. Can it be done? We're going to find out. And that is what you can look forward to in the next video with the real end of this one. I haven't decided whether I'm going to leave the other cut in for effect or not. But either way, as always, thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next one.